welcome back to Mac Music Review. Today we're looking at the Sho Baraka album, Talented 10th. Talented 10th is a good album. And when I say it's a good album, I mean it is a good album minus two tracks which I think are not very good. Those tracks are, and they're labeled as chapters in this thing, are chapters 5, which is Misses, and chapter 9, which is Jim Crow. Misses is a somewhat naughty song about women, which is odd given that his show is a Christian rapper. He always likes to push boundaries, and this is the album, I think, when he started pushing boundaries, when he started saying, I can do what I want, and that is even more obvious on the song Jim Crow. By the way, Misses is totally unlistenable musically. It sounds terrible. There's my cat. And Jim Crow uses the N-word many times, and this is a well-known Christian rapper at the time, a Reach Records rapper, which was the banner for Christian rap music, with Trip Lee and KB and Andy Mineo and Lecrae. Now a lot of those have left. They're not with Reach anymore. I don't know if Andy Mineo is still with Reach. I keep ranting. Anyway, Jim Crow is not a song that I dislike because it uses the N-word. It has a lot of commentary on race. I also don't have a problem with that. It is literally that the song does not sound good musically. The vocals sound way off. It's, in my opinion, just not a very good song because vocally and musically, it's just so muddy sounding, and in my opinion, it doesn't sound very good. Fortunately, when you throw those two songs to the wayside, and the deluxe tracks on this thing are not good, there's a reason those are the epilogue tracks. If you listen to the deluxe version of this album, which was released in 2015, you have two songs which are labeled epilogue. Both of those are bad, especially the second one. The second one is an absolute mess of a song. It sounds totally unfinished in the worst way possible. But guys, the rest of the songs on this thing are pretty darn good. The first chapter of this thing, because the songs are labeled as chapters, there's a little bit of a concept going on, even though, like the narrative, each song is so diverse musically and lyrically. But these first two songs go together, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1, which is kind of this dark opening track with a good, chorus that has sung by a female vocalist. I don't know exactly what her name is or who she is. And then the second track, and it opens with like this guy reading in Hebrew, I think, this old language that sounds very harsh, and with some dark lyrics by Sho addressing some very serious topics. But then you get the next track, which has these haunting looped vocal sample and this hook where Sho cuts him off from swearing, saying the B word. It's the female dog word. Cuts himself off. This is an angsty track that goes very hard about lyrics about violence and has the screaming vocal that's repeated right before the hook that leads into this drop. It's a pretty epic song. Just like an old Kanye song, Mahalia Chapter 4 chops and screws up a vocal sample that sounds like it's from an old worship song, adds the chipmunk effect to the vocals, and you just get this totally wild, it's a wild sounding song that tries to be the most happy and energetic and upbeat song on a project that can be pretty dark, pretty slow sometimes, and very serious. But this song is very upbeat, and I think it works really well. With a guest feature on the hook, chapter number 6, Ali, is a soaring song that is about, you feel like, I think it's Muhammad Ali, and all the chapters also are named after a specific person, so that's another bit thrown into like the concept of this, even though the concept, thematically, I don't see a lot in common with all the tracks, other than that they all the song titles are all names and they're all chapters. But this song is about rising up, wanting to be great. It's an upbeat song, and I think it works pretty well. The next two tracks are some real highlights on an album filled with highlights. Those songs are Denzel, which is talking about what it means to be a man and what it means to have class. Those boys have swag, us men have class. That's not exactly how it says it, but that's the idea behind the song, with a classy instrumental with some horns. It feels a little kind of old school. It's very cool. And then you got the song Madoff. And Madoff has some really great instrumentation, a great hook by another uncredited guest artist, and some just really cool piano music. And it's just a really compelling song about money, about greed, and mostly about money. We do it all for the money, 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 as it says in the hook. And great lyrics on this one. Chapter 10 is a song about Sho's relationship. It is 100% a storytelling song. It's a really compelling story about Sho growing up and hearing this song on the radio by this up-and-coming rapper that wasn't yet super popular, and he became just totally obsessed with this artist, and then this artist recently released an album, and I say recently, this is in the past. Sho's pretty old, now he's pretty old, but he released this album that became the soundtrack to his life, and then as he matured and got older, he started noticing that the music and the lyrics in the music were very shallow and artificial, just talking about girls and money and cars. And he just, as he grew in maturity, he grew out of this music that he absolutely used to love and that he grew up loving, music that his father didn't approve of. And it's easily one of the best tracks on the entire album. I would say it's among the top 2 best songs on the album. Like this and the next song I'm going to talk about, which I think is my favorite song on the album. Not the very next song I'm talking about, but the one after that. Because there's a great stretch of songs in this thing, which is this song and the next 2. Let's talk about them. Those next 2 songs are Cliff and Claire and Me! Exclamation point. Cliff and Claire is a really good song that is, once again, a story song that talks about this marriage. And it starts off when the girl and the guy really like each other, and that we're basically with them getting married. And it just kind of, with this nice instrumental, just talks about their whole marriage and the ups and downs of it and how it starts to not work out at the end. And it's just a compelling storytelling song that has a lot of wisdom behind those lyrics. And this song really got stretched into an entire album, with Sho talking about his own marriage with the album So Many Feelings, which is going to be the next review on the channel. I'm planning either that or a surprise review, which wasn't scheduled. But yeah, we'll see what the next review is. But after that, you have the song Me. Me is a southern fried banger with a crazy hook. Really great music, especially in that hook. The hook goes so hard with a contribution by Lee Green. You also have the guest rapper, Theory Has It, which is one of those underground Christian rappers you may have heard of if you're in the world of like underground Christian rap music. But the lyrics are dark. The song is a banger, but Sho reveals a lot of personal information about himself, deals with his sexual issues and things along those nature, but not in a way that bogs it down or keeps the song from being listenable. In fact, the song it's just actually the most listenable track on the entire album, despite some serious lyrical content, some dark lyrical content that you're not going to hear from most rappers. It just goes so hard in his performance and this hook and the feature by Theory Has It. It's just a banger. It goes hard and it's got great lyrics. This is a great song. My favorite song on the album, even. The last 2 songs, King and Nicodemus, bring it back with a very serious and reflective tone. They just try to point, kind of like the last track on the narrative, kind of point more to God. And because he talks a lot about himself, he talks a lot about other people on this album, and a lot of other concepts which are not directly related to his faith, but his faith, like concepts that are informed by his faith, but he really like focuses on his faith with these last 2 songs. And I think they both work very well. They both have really unique and effective instrumentals and good lyrics. So these last 2 songs, while they're not actually some of my favorites on the album, I would take a lot of the songs that come before them as that I prefer. Maybe just because these are a little bit slower, but I think they are 2 lyrically dense and very good tracks. And that's Talented 10th. One of the best Christian rap albums ever made. Here comes the superlative. I think this is a fantastic album. I am so glad that the narrative turned me on to Sho Baraka and let me discover this album, because I love this album. Like, I kind of almost forgot about it, because it's, once again, it is not a super accessible album. Like, lyrically, it's just very dense. A lot of it is very dark. It's very serious. It's also very unique. It doesn't sound like any other album, really, which is another reason why this one just stands out so much, not just in Christian rap, but in rap music in general. Sho's delivery is very like very formal. It's not a lot of bells and whistles. He kind of just gives it to you, more like poetry than anything else. Kind of like, I don't know. It's not for everybody. His delivery is definitely not for everybody. But I personally, because I love more dense lyrics, I'm getting a lot of that with this album, with some really unique production that I think is very effective. Some really cool throwback stuff. I'm loving Talented 10th. I still love it. I loved it when I first reviewed it a long time ago in writing, on paper. But Talented 10th, it's a 9 out of 10 for me, boys. I don't use 9 out of 10. I don't use the 10 scale. It is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. That's all I got for this review. Thanks for checking out this video. If you haven't checked out the album, I highly recommend you do. Good chance, if you haven't heard this, that you won't vibe with it. But the production is great. I mean, this thing really does sound really, really good. If you don't mind the vocal delivery, I think you will like just at least the production on this thing and these hooks, which are usually done by somebody else. He likes to bring in features for the hooks, even if they're not credited. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day.